Greetings, trombonists at large. I am the vacant trombone, here today to talk to you about the Jack Jenney solo on the Artie Shaw version of the Hoagy Carmichael composition, Stardust, as arranged by Artie Shaw and Lennie Hayton. Now, a thing about Jack Jenney is he's my favorite swing dance era big band trombone player. And he had his own dance band that he plays a version of Stardust on. But his band, some people say it wasn't financially successful. And that is true and not true. It was financially viable, but it wasn't successful enough to make it worth Jack's time to want to bother with having to lead a band and take care of all of that kind of stuff. So when Artie Shaw left his contract and started the Artie Shaw Orchestra, Jack went to play lead trombone with him. Artie, liking Jack's version so well, created the Artie Shaw version of this song and asked Jack to play a solo in it. And one of the great things that I love about this Jack Jenney solo is that it is everything that the Jack Jenney version of Stardust is, but it's all kind of compressed down into one chorus. And it's nice because this is the one solo that really kind of shows everything about Jack Jenney, his beautiful sound, his facile technique, his great range, and his knowledge of harmony. So I just really have always liked this solo since I was a kid. In fact, it's one of the early solos that I learned as a kid to play because it's also accessible. It's not so complicated that you can't play this song. So the solo is basically in three big chunks. There's this opening statement after Artie finishes playing his squealy-wheelie wooden instrument thing. Then Jack comes in with his solo, and he immediately tries to shift gears from what Artie was doing to bring it into what Jack is going to do. And he kind of vibratos on that note and then cuts it short to take in a big breath of air and play the second chunk. Now, the second chunk not only shows the range, but it also then goes into a harmonic solo where he shows his understanding and knowledge of the chords. One of the things to mention about that first high F is that Jack chooses to tongue that high F and not gliss up to it, which would have been far easier. Usually at this point, a lot of guys who play the solo want to take a breath, but Jack doesn't do that. He plays the whole thing in one breath. So choosing to tongue that high F also shows a little more command of the instrument, his virtuosic knowledge of playing trombone, because it's the harder choice to make. The only guy who plays a high F like that in the classic era of trombone is Billy Rausch at the end of Smoke Rings. But then we go into the final part of Jack's solo, which has a quote from the melody, and then a little twist of a surprise, and then the last three notes of this solo. It's always a good idea to quote the melody at some point in your solo, even a short one like this, because it really helps the audience or the dancers to engage with what's happening. And then he kind of goes, ba-la-doo, ba-la-doo, and then he goes up that ninth to that high A, but he doesn't play that A in second position. He goes out to fourth for it, again showing his knowledge of the trombone and his control, because it's a lot scarier to go out to the fourth position to hit that A than it is to just go up to second. And then come the last three notes. And this has always been kind of a little funny thing about this solo to me, those last three notes, because they don't quite fit. He's showing all of this ability in the solo, and then he gets right to the end of it and chooses to play 3/8 notes on the end that are kind of swung almost a triplet feel, but the rest of the band is playing dotted 8th, 16th notes. And when they come in, and it's just enough of a rub to make me think that it's intentional, because though this is the Artie Shaw version of the song, of the Hoagy Carmichael song Stardust, Jack did it, and this is Jack's solo. And though it isn't Jack's version of this song, it's still a lot of what Jack did. And because of that, it's like, this is my solo, and he's making a statement in those last three notes. It just always kind of feels like he's saying, this is my solo, and it doesn't really quite belong in this song. It is very much the Artie Shaw version, and that's what I'm playing, but this is my solo, and this is my version of Stardust. And I've always felt that that must be just a little piece of his emotional approach to this solo. So that's about it for the Artie Shaw solo. Now, a thing about the Artie Shaw, this solo, this Jack Jenney solo in the Artie Shaw version, is it's an important song to know. And that's the reason why it's an important solo to know. One, because it's accessible. Two, because it just incorporates everything about Jack Jenney in one great solo. But also because every now and then, I run into it in a big band. And if you want to be a big band trombone player playing in dance bands, primarily 30s and 40s style, you may run into this solo. And the problem is every transcription I've ever seen of it is wrong. So if you try to play what you're seeing and you have enough familiarity with it in your head, it renders it unplayable, because what you're looking at isn't what you hear. And if you try to play somewhere in between, it's pretty much a guarantee you're going to be hitting the guardrail on that one, swapping paint with the Fed there. So yeah, try to avoid that. It's always a good idea to know these solos, either learn the written solo or, as I chose to do, learn the original Jack Jenney version, so that when you see it, you can make sure that it's the right key, that it's the right length, and all those things. But then you can just use the music for reference and just play the solo the way it goes. Now, I don't normally like to learn a solo verbatim. In this case, I made an exception for one reason. It was because it was very early in my career. When I was a little kid, I didn't have a career. I was going to school. And so I just wanted to know as much about it as I could. And again, the Jack Jenney album that Jack Jenney made with his own band wasn't terribly successful as a commercial piece, but it is very wonderful album. I suggest that you go out and listen to it if you can find it online on YouTube, and just listen to his trombone playing and the odd way he has of approaching solos. It's a little different, but you get to experience his wonderful tone and his wonderful sound. And even though the solo is that moment that we have for us to express ourselves, it's still a good idea to know enough of this classic version of the solo that you can please the audience at the same time. So I hope you found this interesting, and hope you enjoyed this little talk about Jack Jenney, and maybe I'll see you playing this solo on a bandstand sometime. Until then, thanks for watching.